This is a secret CIA document released from the time when the CIA was investigating psychic children in China. What made me come across this document? This show right here. The highly controversial cult classic Serial Experiments Lain. This psycho thriller is in the same lane as the likes of shows like Neon Genesis and Paranoia Agent. It's a show where the more you watch, the more questions you have. Don't believe me? Just look at this.
The program that inserted code synced to the Earth's characteristic frequency into the corresponding Protocol 7 code ultimately raised the collective unconscious to the conscious level.
The plot centers around Lain, an 8th grader who is quiet and introverted. Upon the sudden self-deletion of a classmate, the entire school is shocked. When she gets home, she discovers an email from the supposed dead classmate claiming that she hasn't died, but instead has crossed over and now lives inside The Wire, the show's name for the internet. From there, Lain falls deeper and deeper into The Wire, becoming obsessed with computers and electronics. In this video, I want to break down some of the ideas and themes covered in this anime, so by the end of this video, you can say you actually understand Serial Experiments Lain. Before we get into the themes, it's important to look at the time period Lain was released in.
Internet is that
massive computer network.
The one that's becoming really big now.
Allison, can you explain what internet is?
The internet gave us a whole world of exciting new possibilities.
Internet is a whole group of networks.
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the internet, cyberspace, set free. Hello, virtual reality.
Lain originally aired from July 6, 1998 to September 28, 1998. If you know anything about this time period, then you know the internet was still new and full of unknowns compared to now. I'll put it to you like this. In 1995, there were 16 million users total on the internet. To put that into perspective, currently Twitter has 225 million daily active users. By 1999, the number of internet users grew from 16 million to 248 million. That's a 1,450% increase in the span of 4 years. The internet was spreading unlike anything before, and no one really had a grasp of where it was going. Movies like The Matrix didn't help, as they blurred the lines between reality and what could be possible with computers and virtual realities. This is one of the main concepts Serial Experiment Lain tries to tackle. The idea that the line between reality and information networks like the internet, or as they refer to it, The Wire, will one day crumble.
Lain, let me give you just one little warning.
Yeah?
I think that my little girl perhaps has become obsessed with the wired. It's just an advanced medium for communication. Don't ever get it confused with the real world. Do you understand what I'm warning you about?
You're wrong.
Huh?
The border between the two isn't so clear.
In Serial Experiments Lain, The Wired is an ever-evolving virtual world similar to the real world's internet. Users can connect via Navi, which is basically a computer or phone-like device. In The Wire, users can share thoughts, have conversations, play games, and socialize countless other ways. With more advanced devices, you can access The Wired in a VR style similar to a real-life VR headset. The show does an amazing job of depicting the blurring lines between The Wired and the real world. So many times while watching, you have to question whether something is really happening or if it's in The Wire. In episode 2, we see this guy buy something called Acela. It's a smart supplement which uses nanotech to alter the user's brain chemistry, affecting their sense of time and awareness. This in itself is insanely ironic. People taking a supplement made from technology to increase their awareness of reality. The Wire becoming too intertwined with reality is too much for some people to handle, which is why something like Acela becomes popular. However, the most interesting part is that the guy who takes the Acela has the opposite effect. Instead of seeing the Lain from the real world in front of him, he sees the Lain from The Wired, as we can tell by her facial expression. There's 2 theories that can explain why this happened. Either the Acela that he got that night was laced and forcefully inserted him into The Wire, or what I think to be more likely is that the supplement is naturally that strong and the side effect can be accidental connection to The Wire. Due to the technology used in the Acela, which increases brain output, it's not unlikely that it would make the brain strong enough to access The Wire without any physical devices. Either way, day, this accidental connection to the wire causes him to see the Lain from the wire instead of the real Lain that was right in front of him. Crying hysterically and saying things like the wire can't interfere with the real world, it's clear this guy was fighting for his humanity and wanted to avoid the wire completely. After Lain from the wire tells him, no matter where you go, we're all connected, he shoots himself right in front of her. Interestingly enough, the next day Alice brings up the point that they all literally just watched someone die, yet they didn't have the capacity to take it seriously. This is one of the most chilling predictions this show has made about current time. In modern days, life is pretty much impossible to navigate through without the use of the internet. The constant flow of information has desensitized us to reality and numbs us from a lot of things which should be taken more seriously. Society is full of people not focused on the reality in front of them and more focused on their social media persona. This is why we have clout chasers and people who do ridiculous things for fame and attention on digital apps.
Will this electrocute me?
Like Lane's father said, it's important to remember the internet, like the wire, should be seen as a tool and not an extension of reality. One major reason people often rely on things like the internet or in the show The Wired is as a form of escapism. Escapism is defined as the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. In Serial Experiments Lain, we see the extremes people can go to in the name of escapism. From Chisa's self-deletion, jumping off the building, to Professor Hodgson choosing to die peacefully in The Wire, to Aerie jumping in front of a train so he can only exist in The Wire. All of these people and more in the show ultimately decided that reality was not pleasant enough and saw a more positive experience in The Wire. The show is sending a warning about how the inherent day-to-day problems and stress of reality can prompt people to choose and accept a virtual reality as truth. It's exactly these day-to-day experiences and emotions that we feel that keep us connected to reality. Lain begins to fall deeper and deeper into this trap of escapism and belief that the wired is a higher form of reality. She starts to get hallucinations telling her to self-delete and start saying things like,
When it comes down to it, it doesn't matter whether this side or the other side is real. I was in both of them. Without getting too technical, I'm basically a program designed to destroy the barrier between the wired and the real world.
She starts losing her grip on reality from going into the wire so much, which is also visually shown through the progression of her room. At the beginning of the show, she's a normal girl with a group of friends in a normal room. As the show goes on, she becomes less and less interested in hanging out with her friends in real life and spending more time in the wire. Her room starts to look like something out of a 90s sci-fi movie. It's not until Alice tells Lain that she's wrong and shows Lain her pounding heartbeat. Lain begins to realize how important bodies and reality actually are. Aerie, who had become the false god of the wire, had been one of the main influences on Lain's perspective of the wired as a higher form of reality. Aerie, the main antagonist of the show, was someone who, like I mentioned earlier, self-deleted. However, he did it with a specific plan in mind. His plan was to continue the research and work done on the wired in an attempt to merge the collective consciousness of humans with the wired. He wanted to be the god of this new reality, which he needed Lain's help to achieve. Coming to her senses because of her interaction with her real-life friend, her only friend, Alice, Lain denounces Aerie as God. When he tries to manifest the body in the real world, Lain kills it using telekinesis to destroy it with her Navi parts. Lain was able to get away from the constant pulls dragging her further into escapism through the wire by realizing the value in reality and the physical. When Aerie has to construct a physical body in an attempt to kill Lain, she asks him whether he thinks bodies are pointless then. This moment is so monumental because it's Lain solidifying her view of the wired and reality being two completely separate entities not meant to be connected. She realizes the wire isn't some higher form of plane we're meant to escape to, because what really matters is the reality we already live in. The concept of the self or consciousness plays a big role in Serial Experiments Lain. The show raises questions such as what is the self, what is consciousness, and what is its purpose? As I mentioned earlier, many people throughout the show decided that life in the wire would be better than one in reality. One of the main reasons was because you could become whoever you wanted to be in the wired. Early in the series, before Lain had a full grasp on the wired and how immersive it actually was, this loss of self-identity began to impact her. When she decides to go to Club Siberia with her friends, they question if it was really her they saw in the wire because the Lain in the wire was completely different from the one in reality. The Lain in the wire was more straightforward, outspoken, and all around just not the same person as Lain in reality. When the Lain from the wire begins to cause chaos, spreading rumors and private information of others, Lain realizes what's going on. She realizes that in The Wired exists another version of her different from the one she is consciously in control of. This is something we see in society, which was foreshadowed in this show first. Social medias like Instagram and Twitter are full of people who log in to completely different lives than what they live in reality. This is dangerous because it's the cause for a lot of depression and mental illness in society today. Seeing someone's life on social media and comparing it to your own reality when everything they post on social media is carefully curated to portray exactly what they want. It's always going to be toxic comparing your view of yourself to something that's digital and ultimately not real. This is one of the main warnings of the show, that society will cease to appreciate reality as the highest form of being, and in doing so will stray further and further away from knowing ourselves. Ultimately, Serial Experiments Lain is a masterpiece not only because of the great writing, unique art and animation, or its insanely thought-provoking approach to storytelling. Lain is a masterpiece because pretty much everything that was warned in the show to be problematic has come true. From the internet expanding into an unbelievable presence and big tech racing to be the first to destroy the barrier between reality and digital with VR, to escapism through digital devices which are all around us constantly fighting for our attention, to our loss of self-identity because of the focus on our online image versus reality. I'll leave a link down below in the description to the whole show. It's only 13 episodes and they have them all on YouTube, or you can check out this video on your screen right now, which I did on Johan. I love you and I'm out. Peace.